The lost treasure of the Knights Templar and pirates buried gold deep underground, and the Vikings sailed there before Columbus, according to legend. However, new evidence suggests that the Romans may have also been on Oak Island. The search for these artifacts was difficult and nearly cost a man his life. One of the biggest mysteries of all is Bole 10X, a deep, dangerous, water-filled shaft that has been the focus of treasure hunters for decades. 80's Dan Blanken's ship is one of Oak Island's most devoted. Because borehole 10X is 235 feet deep and begins with a 181-foot vertical drop through a reinforced steel and concrete shaft, it was not an easy excavation, despite searchers' belief that it could lead to whatever was very deep down. Narrows into a tunnel that is barely 27 inches wide, 44 tons long, and completely obscured by murky water with no light. Two professional divers, Harvey Morash and Michael Gartz, were brought in to investigate 10X by the Lagena brothers. They were aware of the risks but were unprepared for what transpired. Michael would act as a safety diver while Harvey descended, and the crew on the surface would stay in touch through an underwater communication system. However, things started to fall apart a few minutes into the dive with no signal or voice. The team on the surface had no idea if Michael was safe, and they tried to call his name but could not find him. In summary, Oak Island has been a mystery for centuries, with legends suggesting Vikings sailed there before Columbus, the lost treasure of the Knights Templar, and pirates buried gold deep underground. The mysterious Boral 10X remains a mystery, and the Lagena brothers' plan to explore it was not well prepared for the risks involved. The team was in a panic as they were underwater, unable to communicate or find Michael. They tried tapping on the pipe to send signals, but no sign of him. The surface people were tense as they couldn't shoot straight up due to the dangerous decompression stops needed to prevent serious health risks. Everyone exhaled in relief as a light appeared beneath the water's surface. Harvey had descended quite a distance, but conditions worsened inside the tunnel's narrow section, where there was no visibility and thick silt clouds made it impossible to see any objects or shapes. Harvey felt his way around the walls in an attempt to determine what might be beneath them, possibly shattered pebbles, old wooden buildings, and other stuff. The drill bar was a huge 20-ton metal bar that had inadvertently fallen into 10X decades ago, wedged inside the tunnel and obstructing his path. Harvey attempted to work his way around it, but the space was too small, and for a brief moment he wasn't sure he could escape. He had to twist and push himself backwards, scraping against the rough walls, and his breathing became more difficult, but he was able to free himself and begin climbing again. The entire experience demonstrated that 10X was not going to readily divulge its secrets, and they knew they had to change things up because the shaft was unpredictable and dangerous. There were still many mysteries to solve on Oak Island, and they weren't going to allow one setback stop them from moving forward with their plans. When Charles Barkhouse arrived with an artifact, it may completely alter their preconceived notions about Oak Island. After years of secrecy, Charles disclosed that a Roman sword had been unearthed in Mahone Bay, just off the shore of Oak Island, in the 1940s, by a local family who had been illegally scalloping in the region. The Oak Island team had finally obtained the relic. The sword itself was a bronze or brass weapon with a distinctive handle that attracted the team's attention right away. The finding of a Roman sword close to Mahone Bay in North America has generated a lot of speculations and discussions. Some people think it proves that Romans crossed the Atlantic centuries before Norse explorers or Columbus. To verify the sword's authenticity, specialists at St. Mary's University in Halifax performed a chemical analysis, notwithstanding the skeptics' contention that the sword might have been imported to the island later by European collectors or via trade channels. However, the results were inconclusive, because some elements did match Roman metallurgy, such as copper, tin, lead, and arsenic, all of which are consistent with ancient Roman bronze. The team discovered that the sword resembled ceremonial weapons given to gladiators and high-ranking Roman officers, with the hilt featuring Hercules aligning with Roman symbolism. The sword's cast did not adhere to accepted Roman methods, indicating a later era that may have been medieval or early modern. According to some scholars, it may have been built in the 18th or 19th century, using Roman architectural inspirations, or it may have even been purposefully positioned there by someone wishing to heighten the island's mystery. The idea that the Romans had lived on Oak Island was severely undermined when Dr. Christina Bro, a chemistry professor who specializes in metal analysis, performed a more thorough scan and discovered that the sword contained a high amount of zinc, which was not normally used in ancient Roman bronze. This suggests that the sword was made of modern brass rather than ancient bronze. However, not everyone was persuaded, as some noted that some ancient mines contain naturally occurring zinc that could have been converted into Roman bronze through natural processes. A new knowledge of early transatlantic migration and the history of the island of the Oak Island sword has resulted from the team's efforts to determine whether the sword was actually ancient. In the history of the island, discovery has generated debate. While some experts contend that it is a contemporary fake or the result of 19th century craftsmanship, others think that because of its distinctive metal composition at discovery, it may be a real ancient item. For more than 2 centuries, Oak Island has teased history buffs and treasure hunters with various finds that seem to contradict this. For instance, Roman-style crossbow bolts that matched the design of bolts used by the Roman soldiers were discovered on the island. Some contend that they came via trade routes much later in history, maybe during the era of European exploration. Others propose that this could indicate that the Romans or someone with a weapon came to this region of the world much before the Vikings or Columbus. Researchers continue to debate the famous lead cross found at Smith's Cove. One theory suggests it may be even older, possibly dating back to the Roman era, while another links it to the Knights Templar, a mysterious order that allegedly traveled across the Atlantic to hide their treasures. One of the largest debates in the history of the island has been raised by the discovery of the Oak Island sword, which has raised questions about whether the Romans actually lived there. The island is known for presenting items that don't make sense, including what some people claim to be Roman artifacts. The little North American island of Oak Island has been the scene of several archaeological disc finds and discussions. After the cross was examined, the lead composition was linked to southern France, which was formerly a Roman colony. This could indicate that an expedition from antiquity arrived at Oak Island millennia before anybody else did. Researchers have been trying to read the inscriptions on the 90T stone found deep within the money pit for years, and some people think the markings resemble Phoenician or Roman Eros letters. This is another intriguing discovery. The odd stone platforms and roadways discovered beneath Smith's Cove were purposefully constructed by someone rather than existing naturally. Some academics think these structures mimic ancient European engineering and may be related to Roman aqueducts or highways. Another significant controversy arose when a Roman coin was purportedly discovered close to Oak Island, but its precise origin remained unknown. This begs the issue of why an ancient Roman coin would be in the vicinity of Oak Island. Although the enigmatic wreckage at Mahone Bay has not yet been thoroughly investigated, sonar scans indicate that it may be ancient, possibly dating back to the 1400s or earlier, predating Columbus. If there is any evidence linking this wreck to the Romans, it would be revolutionary. But others believe it may be they were digging deep into the garden shaft in the hopes of finding gold or hidden artifacts, but instead they found a dark passageway from the 17th century connected to a section called the Baby Blob. The passage had odd gaps, and the walls and ceiling were broken apart, indicating that the passage had been intentionally damaged. Rick Lagina and his crew made a terrifying discovery at Smith's Cove, which is a site that is famous for its fabled treasure stash from the 18th century. The team continued to dig, taking samples every 10 feet and examining every piece of soil. As they continued, they came across flood tunnels that had haunted treasure hunters for centuries. With modern technology and experience, the team had the upper hand in detecting gold and silver. As they continued to drill, they discovered more old wooden beams that were part of a well-thought-out structure. The team was excited to discover that these beams were part of a structure that had been forgotten for a long time, possibly hiding treasure or something more sinister. They carefully removed the P-beams in the hopes that dating them would provide more insight into the timeline. As they continued to dig, they discovered pieces of wood that had been shaped by ancient tools that were used long before modern machinery. The swamp's strange story unfolded as they continued to dig. The team was on a mission to solve an ancient mystery in a swamp. They discovered ship parts dating back to the 15th century, a brace from a ship with a 9-inch diameter, and a ship's rail triling that was traced back to the 8th century. These discoveries led them to believe that the swamp contained more than just shipwrecks, suggesting that the area had a deeper history. They also discovered a large wooden structure buried in the swamp, that reminded them of a dam that had been built to conceal something. Dr. Ian Sponer, a geoscientist, was brought in to assist in dating the wood and investigate whether or not it was connected to the nearby stone road, which is estimated to be around 500 years old. If the two were connected, it would indicate that the area had been a center of activity centuries ago. The swamp seemed to have a mind of its own, hiding something that no one was meant to find. Cuba and Fiona discovered a button that was covered in gold, which was reminiscent of a period in history when the Royal Navy ruled the seas. Marty and Rick were working on the southern portion of the swamp when they discovered a wooden structure that was concealed beneath a stone road. The craftsmanship reminded them of old cabins where every piece had a place. The connections between the swamp, the garden shaft, and the hidden road appeared to be linked. However, the most important aspect that they were still missing was that they did not fully understand the tunnels, wooden structures. The added benefit is that this is the section of the whole structure that has been located. The crew has found man-made mortar that matches soils from more than 100 feet deep in the money pit. Additionally, some portions of the feature, as well as a variety of coins and antiquities from the 14th to the 18th centuries, have been unearthed in the money pit area. A hinge piece that Fiona thinks is a diamond or some kind of cut glass is one of the items that have led the team to conclude that the feature was utilized and altered by several people throughout a number of ages when riches may have been placed in the money pit location. Fiona is unsure, but Jack believes that this hinge may have come from a chest or box. The rest of the hinge and its contents are being bagged. Todd thinks the hinge might be a gemstone or glass gemstone, while Fiona says it might have been from a ring or necklace. Over the past 10 years, the Ligas and their team have found numerous items of treasure throughout Oak Island, including gold-plated buttons, silver coins, and gemstones. The team is committed to finding answers to these questions as they continue to investigate the swamp and its possible treasure caches. One such find, which was made on Lot 21 in 2018, is thought to be at least 500 years old. It is a stunning and priceless treasure. The following day, archaeologist Lars Nien and archaeometallurgist Emma Culligan joined the team to examine an artifact that resembled a glass gem close to Lot 5's spherical feature. The artifact has a significant amount of lead, which is uncommon in modern glass, particularly glassware. The artifact, known as paste, is made of ground-up, highly Li-containing flint glass that was pressed into a mold. Gorg in French jewelry. Early in the 18th century, Friedrich Struss made imitation jewels by mixing lead and bismuth thallium with powdered glass. Perhaps during an effort to bury treasures, the circular feature on Lot the 5th of May have served as a camp. The Pit of Money. The fact that the mortar-like material discovered in the round feature matches soil samples found both nearby and deep underground, where a large-scale excavation is currently taking place, emphasizes that someone of significance was present and that someone wealthy had dug everywhere. The province attested that this was the first of these items they had discovered. Marty thinks that this is one of the most important things on Lot 5. The team's data and analysis are something to think about, but they intend to keep looking for more treasure and locate the treasure's siblings. In 2020, Rick Lagina, a metal detection expert, and Billy Gart are looking for clues at the southern border of a mysterious triangle-shaped swamp. They have found ship-related artifacts and wood from ships that date back to the 15th and 18th centuries, as well as a piece of ship railing near the southern border that was carbon-dated to as early as the 8th century. Given Dr. Doug Simmons's theory that the medieval Viking culture may be connected to the Oak Island mystery, the team is eager to find more evidence of a sailing vessel in the swamp, and they are wondering if they have found more evidence of a sailing vessel there and who the visitors were. With dates from 700 AD found on the ship's railing and 12200 dates found in the swamp, the Oak Island team thinks this is a very old mystery. There are compelling indications that there was activity there from the beginning, but to what extent this adds intrigue to the search? The team is eager to see what other potential clues they may find in the area. In conclusion, the Oak Island team is actively searching for clues at the southern border of the swamp, using various methods to uncover clues and examining the historical context of the swamp more than 30 years ago. Billy is digging in the swamp, and they find horizontal and vertical boards, as well as a wall of a shaft or retaining wall. It's possible that Fred probed this wall when he believed he hit the wall. Fred Nolan, a treasure hunter and landlord of Oak Island, found a wooden wall or dam in the marsh that he thought was proof of an artificial structure built years ago to conceal something valuable. The team is currently looking into whether they have discovered a portion of the same construct and, if so, whether it is connected to the possibly 1250-year-old ship railing fragment discovered nearby in 2020. Geoscientist Dr. Ian Spooner has been invited by Gary and Rick Lagena to examine the feature.